new growth poles in the country so that all our businesses are not centered only in Accra, Tema, but are spread out evenly across the country.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Sakara, let's hear from you.
Thank you. The private sector is affected by three things: investment, a regulatory market that ensures they can be unfettered, and thirdly, a policy environment that ensures that in the marketplace they remain competitive. We can have different models of interventions in our strategy to promote this. What I want to make clear today is that the CPP has always promoted a mixed economy and has never at any time controlled a command economy. Therefore, we have done more to promote private sector and its growth in this country than any other government, because over 400 factories were established, which my two counterparts who have been in government have presided over the wholesale decimation and sale of those factories. And now we talk about promoting private sector. I want to let you know that in the area of investment, we will build a pyramid. The age of entrepreneurship is here. Therefore, you must promote private sector through entrepreneurship. However, when you have missed a crucial factor, which is the development of your agriculture, you cannot promote it in thin air. All you do is grow a distribution chain, which is a chain for somebody else's production. And that is what happens when increasingly your service sector is growing, because it's a distribution chain for other people's manufactured goods. That is what happens when increasingly the telephone communication and mining extractive services are taking out your money, because that eventually leads to depreciation of your currency as well. So we must be clear that in promoting private sector, we will ensure that we invest first in the productive areas through proven private partnership models that work. We will also resist the temptation of interference through political patronage. We shall not attack anybody's business because they are not a CPP person. We will promote every Ghanaian's business because they're Ghanaians. We will ensure that we resist the temptation for our politicians to involve themselves in business. If I choose to go into politics, it is because I choose to serve. I will restrict myself to that and promote those who are in business to do business. Secondly, we must ensure that transaction costs are brought down. The unbridled allocation of infrastructure without targeting it to where it has the highest rate of return, where you have productive centers, means that many of the time we're not getting the rate of return to infrastructure to reduce transaction costs.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to the next question.
Yes. Question 2. The Ghana Investment Promotion Council Act of 1994, that is Act 478, specifically reserves retail trade for Ghanaians. Yet in the recent past, we have seen the intrusion of non-Ghanaians in this sector, contributing to unemployment and poverty. What would be your strategy in tackling this development? And I begin with you, the presidential candidate for the NPP, Nana Akufo-Addo.
First of all, recognizing that laws, both for our citizens and those who come into our country, should be no respecter of persons. The mere fact that foreign nationals, countries of some foreign nationals are assisting the development of our country doesn't mean that they're entitled to do what they like in our country. And I believe that that has to be the perspective with which we're looking at it. I'm aware that efforts were initiated by this government to deal with the presence of, for instance, Chinese persons within the retail trade. They were began, we haven't seen them being systematically carried out and enforced. So the first thing is the will. You're elected to defend the interests of the Ghanaian people. It is they who give you the mandate and make you president. So your first port of call are to do those things that enhance their interest. The law says that only Ghanaians should be part of certain types of economic activities. That is what the law has to make sure happens. We can't say to ourselves, oh, those who are trying to break our laws are our friends and sympathizers, so we have to be careful. That is not the way we can build a viable country and a viable state. So the willingness to enforce the laws is absolutely critical. And in doing so, we have to say to ourselves, we will be no respecter of persons. Ghanaians are required when they go and do business in other countries to respect the laws of those countries. I have no difficulty with that. We too should be insisting that people respect our laws in the development of our economy. So that's the key. And secondly, in doing so, we have to continue to make sure that our retail operators, our small and medium-scale operators, are encouraged as much as possible to take up the activities where the foreign retailer or the foreign intervener is trying to compete. If we can strengthen those who trade in our country to be able to trade in Ghanaian product, obviously, the temptation for people to look outside and therefore for outsiders to be involved in our retail activities will be lessened. And that is why we continue to insist in the MPP that the transformation agenda, the agenda of industrial development of Ghanaian manufacturing expansion, is the way forward for our country. That is what holds the key to prosperity for our nation and for lifting up the mass of our people out of poverty.
Thank you very much for your response. Now the presidential candidate for the NDC, the president.
Thank you very much. There's a reason why this law exists. And the reason under the GIPC law is that the retail sector is a sector that requires the least skill and capital to go into. And so you don't need foreigners to come and do retail business for you, because the amount of skill you need to do it and the amount of capital you need is low. And for an economy that wants to throw up more jobs for its people, you don't let those jobs be taken over by foreigners in an area that is easy for your indigents to participate. And so the GIPC law says that the retail sector is reserved for Ghanaians, and that foreigners who want to participate in the retail sector should show an investment of $300,000 US. But it goes on further to say that markets are off limits to foreigners. And so markets, areas that are defined as markets, are off limits to foreigners. So there's no business for foreigners being in those markets. Those markets must be reserved for our mothers and our sisters who have traditionally sold in those markets. Foreigners can set up in a commercial district, and if they show $300,000 or more of inward investment, they can establish in that sector. But they must be subject to the same conditions as Ghanaian businesses are subjected to. One, they must register with the Registrar General's Department. Two, they must register with the Ghana Revenue Authority to ensure that they're paying taxes. Three, they must register with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center as foreigners. And four, they must abide by all our laws, including the laws of immigration. It means they must have a residence permit and they must have a work permit that allows them to do the kind of business that they are doing in Ghana. So that is the law. The president's duty is to enforce the law. And so recently, with the Ghana Union Traders Association, we formed a task force, and they have the clear criteria of what foreigners can do and what foreigners can do. And so we're not just doing an arbitrary lockup of people's shops and all that. We're following the criteria based on the law. Let me point out that there are certain ECOWAS protocols to which Ghana is a party that puts our ECOWAS neighbors in a certain exempt category in respect to retail trade than with other foreigners from outside ECOWAS. But again, like I said, they must also follow the same procedures that Ghanaians follow. As foreigners, they must register with immigration, They must have a work permit, they must have a residence permit, they must show that they are registered with the Ghana Revenue Authority and are paying taxes. They are registered with the Registrar General's Department, and they are registered with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center.
Thank you very much. The presidential candidate for CPP, please, Dr. Sakara Foster.
The wholesale proliferation of retailing in our economy is a symptom. It is not a cause. It is a symptom of a manufacturing sector that is in single digit. Those foreigners coming here are coming here because they have the comparative advantage of manufacturing those goods and therefore are acting here as wholesalers and looking for a distribution chain. And in the process, they go beyond wholesaling into retailing. We must cure it at the fundamental level of ensuring that we restore our manufacturing capacity as we have indicated, using our natural resources. What are the things being sold? Mostly plastics, sandals. We now have a petroleum industry. Take some of that GNPC money you want to use for exploration, support indigenous private sector people to go into plastics, and no foreigner will come to retail a good that is manufactured in Ghana because it will not be profitable for them to do so. So that is one simple answer to it. The issue of enforcement is paramount. You have laws, you enforce it. It's as simple as that. So I don't need to belabor that point. But what I will say is that we also need to put in place consumer protection laws. When you buy something that is a shoddy good, you should be able to take it back and get it changed. That will make sure that we do not attract what I will say, less discriminatory levels of wholesalers into our economy. And that also ensures that our own people have an opportunity to be able to compete in that marketplace. As far as we can see, the larger issue that we must talk about is negotiating for markets. We must negotiate for markets so that we turn the tide on those who are selling their goods in our markets. We are giving raw materials. We're giving a lot of infrastructure contracts. Surely, we can also ask for a share of their market and ask those goods to be produced here so that we can also export those goods. I think we can only do that when we begin to aggregate as countries in our region, because we do not have the leverage, we do not have the reduction in transaction costs that comes with volumes. A small country like Ghana, 27 million people, that's about a town in China. And you want to negotiate with China. Why don't you band with the rest of the West Africa region and have China commit to manufacturing some of its light industry in your country and export some of those goods back into their own markets as a condition of them also having part of your resources.
All right, thank you very, very much. Now I move to PNC.
If it is not just the retail traders that have invaded, the foreign investors who have invaded Ghana by retail trading. If you look at the mining sector, you look at the oil sector, you look at many other sectors, foreigners have taken over Ghana. And I must emphasize this again, that we have practically sold out the economy to the foreigners. It is not the foreigners who have come in to take the larger portion of our economy. It is we who have decided to give it out. So when we give it out, then they now come for more. That is why they have been able to come to take the little ones that our traders are doing. So we believe that we must believe in Ghana first. Whatever we are doing in this nation, let's represent and make sure that Ghanaians get first things first. Today, you go to Agbobolshi, go to what's the name? Makwala Market. Chinese have taken all over the place. They even have licenses to operate. But look at the licenses in which they are operating. It is not a Chinese name that is on it. It is a Ghanaian name. We as government, and even as people of the nation, must first of all look up to ourselves first and see that we are able to trade Ghana to Ghanaians and not to trade Ghana to foreigners. I must emphasize on the visa section of which the president made mention on. We have many visitors who are in Ghana who do not even have visas, but yet they are businessmen in this country. What are we doing as foreign policies to make sure that people who come into Ghana do not just come in as foreigners, but properly come in and pay taxes before they start doing businesses? So we are saying that we will help strengthen and build our retail traders by empowering them, our people, against external competition. There must be some kind of commodities that we have to say, no, it is this commodity must be sold out by Ghanaians and not foreigners. So we must push policies, reforms to protect our people and let them understand that Ghana loves them and not foreigners. If you go to the mining sector, find out how many Ghanaians are there. We have practically sold the mining sector to the foreigners. The oil industry in which we are boasting today is in the hands of the foreigners. Why are you worried about the small traders when you have sold the heart of the nation to the foreigners? So let's, first of all, retrieve what we have sold out, and the little ones that are around will definitely go back and make sure that Ghana belongs to Ghanaians first before any other person. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ask the next question.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, we are gradually coming to the end of our conversation tonight. There are two final things we'll do. One is a final question, and the very final thing will be your closing remarks in 3 minutes. So we'll take the final question, and then when we are done, we'll come back for your closing remarks. Ghana is said to be one of the fastest growing economies in the world today. Since 2007, we've been averaging about 7% growth. In 2011, we're told we did almost 14%. What would you do to sustain and perhaps even accelerate the rate of economic development? And I'll start with you, President Mahama.
Yeah, thank you very much. That is the area that would transform Ghana sufficiently into middle income. That is sustaining the accelerated growth that we have currently. Ghana is classified as a lower middle income country, and we are in transition from lower middle income to full middle income status. There are various sectors that are contributing to the growth of the economy. One, the non-oil sector. And this is the sector that has taken us this far, brought us this far. It includes services, it includes agriculture, it includes mining and quarrying, it includes the construction industry. We have a new industry coming up, which is oil and gas. Its contribution to GDP is not yet that big. But if we continue to fully exploit the advantages of that oil and gas, it gives us the opportunity to speed up the acceleration of our growth and the transition of our economy. And that's why one of the focuses that we say would drive us to the next level is investing in energy. Because all these industries require energy to be able to contribute their quota to the growth of our GDP, especially the oil industry, especially construction and mining, and even agro-processing under the agricultural mode. And so we're going to continue the investments in energy so that we have affordable, available energy in Ghana to power the growth that we want. With regards to the oil industry, we're already working on the gas sector. I believe that the gas has a better basis for transforming our economy than just the oil that we extract and sell, because the gas would provide the downstream industry that we need to backstop the growth of our economy. One, we have a memorandum of understanding to establish a fertilizer plant. After we have used power for energy generation at Abuadzi and our other thermal plants, additional gas will be used to produce fertilizer. It will be used to boost the salt and mining industry, produce caustic soda, and all the other petrochemical industries that are downstream of the gas industry. But of course, we must ensure that there's cross-investment into the other sectors that has brought us this far. We shouldn't forget about cocoa. We must continue to maintain our status as a major producer of cocoa. We shouldn't forget about construction, mining, and quarrying. We must continue to maintain our position as a leading gold producer in this world. We shouldn't forget about the services industry, which has seen phenomenal growth, telecommunications, financial services. These are all very important. And of course, most important, ICT. We must ensure that we have an ICT backstopping of our economy.
Dr. Sakara.
Thank you very much. Sustaining the growth at 14.7% of GDP will not happen under the current approach. In fact, the projections indicate very clearly that from next year on, our GDP growth will come back under 10 to somewhere around 8, 9. And that will go on for the next 5 years. The bump to 14% was a windfall, an unexpected income. That is why you got that. Now, what we must do if we want to have a higher rate is to invest in the non-oil sector, which is what I have been singing about all the time. We must invest that money in agriculture, agro-processing, small and medium scale enterprises, and ICT, where we will get a rate of return to boost our economy up and grow the agriculture in that area. Investment in new plantation crops, sugarcane, over 300,000 hectares will give us opportunity to bring on equivalent income of cocoa in 10 years. From the import substitution on alcohol, from the energy that it will generate, from the amount of legumes that it will generate in rotation, which will cure our poultry problem because it will allow us to have animal feed, and it will also ensure that we are able to direct our agricultural growth to supply in industry. This is the bottom of the pyramid. The other things that we talk about come on the back of it, but it must be coupled with infrastructure investment. And I am pleased to hear the President mention about the fertilizer plant. What I want everyone to know, Ghana producing fertilizer by itself will be uneconomical. We must combine our nitrogen with phosphorus from Togo and produce comprehensive fertilizers for the entire region. And we must negotiate with our neighbors to be the supplier of fertilizer. That alone will bring on an additional 300,000 jobs into our economy and give us a significant boost in our income. We must also ensure that in keeping our energy requirement up, we diversify as quickly as possible. I want to see solar farms when I'm traveling in the north. The one village light with a solar panel on it and a bird nesting on it is inadequate. In as much as it has provided lighting, we are talking of significant things that will increase our economy, boost our economy, help it evolve and grow. We cannot have an economy that grows without evolving.
Okay.
Thank you.
Doc, thank you. Mr. Ayaga.
Yes, thank you. We all believe that the economic growth with the discovery of oil, the economy will grow. But when you discover oil and you give it out to a foreigner, the economy will not grow. Because the foreigner will take the proceeds of the oil revenue to his country, and you will be paying deficits. And your sea and your water bodies will be all contaminated with oil distance. So what we are saying is that the most important sector in our country is agriculture. We have left it out. What we need to do is to go back and talk about Operation Feed Yourself, where we will revisit this particular scheme and invest massively into it. And forget the oil. They have given it out to the foreigner already. We need 20 years. We need another 20 years to get back this oil companies to Ghanaians. So let's look at primary issues and things that we can actually do now to make sure that our economy grows. Education. My brother is talking about free. We are saying that let's look at it. Free is not so important, but quality. Quality of it will make sure that the quality aspect of it will make sure that we train Ghanaian students with the 3T: talent, technology, and tolerance. Let's have our students to be more talented so that we can export the brain drains and recover natural foreign exchange and more of our doctors. You see, ICT is an important part in this country. If you look at China, and you look at Korea, and you look at India, they are exporting ICT. In Ghana, we boast of mineral resources and natural resources. We have left the labor force. We are not equipping the labor force with the necessary tools and requirements that will help benefit and make this economy grow. All these are factors. Look at the manpower first. Look at the economy in which you are living in. Identify the substances. Identify the area of development that you think that when you invest in it, the economy will grow, rather than looking up to foreign donors and looking up to loans and grants. We can equally generate enough loans here to give to Cote d'Ivoire, to Burkina Faso. But when we don't believe in ourselves, we'll definitely go out to China looking for 3 billion loans, or we'll go to, what did you want the last time? What did you want the last time? President, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of our debate. We ask you to keep your voices down as we come to the end of the debate. Thank you. Nanado, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Kojo. You always put these big, heavy questions, 3 minutes. Anyway, firstly, the economic growth that we've witnessed last year has been rightly described as a windfall, the 14% figure. Because if you look, in 2008, Kufuor left us a growth rate of 8.7% of our economy, and that is without oil. Today with oil, we've got to 14%, and already the indications are that we're going to come under 8% this year. Agriculture, fishing, manufacturing, construction, hotels and restaurants, all these areas have seen a significant decline in the period of the last 4 years of NDC rule. So the process of economic transformation to which the MPP is committed means that we will accelerate the development of our economy. The measures that we have in place to support our private sector to take up the challenge of industrial development and in manufacturing will mean that within this decade that we're ahead of us, not only will we have an economy that grows jobs, but we'll have an economy also that produces higher incomes for our people. These twin objectives are the way that we can sustain economic growth in our country. The most important single thing that has to be done for our private sector to grow and thereby grow the economy is to restore business confidence. Report after report by the Bank of Ghana has told us that business confidence in this administration has been low and continues to be low. NDC out, NPP in, and business confidence in this economy will revive dramatically. Secondly, we need to transform the oil into the construction of a petrochemical industry in our country, which would allow us to produce so many things that we can here. Out there in the ECOWAS community is a 350 million market. I believe that this country's strategic interest is to take a leading role in bringing the ECOWAS community market into being. It'll be 500 million people by 2030. And that will then give us the base to make our country that light industrial manufacturing sector that we could also easily do. I've already talked about the measures that we need to do to strengthen the pharmaceutical industry. And then, of course, the creation of an educated labor force that would allow us to be competitive in the world market. These are the ways that the NPP intends to approach the issue of economic growth.
PNC, Mr. Ayariga, please, your concluding remarks. 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I believe that the time has come for Ghanaians to make a choice. It is either for us to tell the truth or for us to tell a lie and give the management team to a different political party. We believe that if Ghana has to grow, and Ghana has to develop, and Ghana has to be transformed, we have seen other political parties and their performance. We have seen other leaders and what they can offer for Ghanaians. If we go back to history, we should look at the leadership of Dr. Hila Limam, and you will be proud that Ghana under 27 months has been able to acquire what has been sold out by other political parties. We believe that politics is not a tool for violence. We believe politics is a tool for us to come together, share the common ideas that we have, see what we can all together put up our minds, our brains, our talent, and develop this nation. We should not be divided by political groupings and say that, oh, this one didn't do this and this one didn't do that. Whatever is left by the NDC government or the MPP government, the PNC government will finish it. We will make sure that no stone is left unturned. Ayerga is the youngest presidential candidate in Africa and in Ghana. We believe it's an inspiration for the youth to stand up, that it is time for them to rule. Obama said, we can't. But Ayerga says, yes, we are ready. Youth out there, believe in Ayerga, give your vote to Mr. Hassan Ayerga, and your life shall never be the same. We believe that empowering youth is starting with empowering Mr. Hassan Ayerga by my father, my brothers, and my brothers going home. Going home to rest. We are retiring them. We will give them a beautiful retire package. The one that they will not be worried. The PNC government will make sure that our lives and our economy, we will make sure that